States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, we have one application before us this evening and two decision items for the board's consideration. And our first application is TC 5418-1825 Brentwood Road Associates LLC. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the hearing notice.
Yes, thank you. TC 5418-1825 Brentwood Road Associates LLC. Applicant requests a change of zone from Business 1 to Business 3 and a town board special permit for a fast food restaurant pursuant to Code Section 68-302G. A minor subdivision is also requested as part of this application. Site plan modifications may be required as part of the application. The environmental impacts will also be assessed on this property. The property is located on the northeast side of Brentwood Road in the Brentwood School District and 2nd Avenue, Brentwood, also known as 1825 Brentwood Road, Town of Islip, Suffolk County, Islip Town Board, Olga Murray, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Olga. If the applicant would please come forward. Hi there.
The application
Okay, does anyone at this point have any questions or comments for the applicant? No.
You're going to have one queue going into the window?
And from this, I see queuing for 11 cars. But it would block the parking spaces. I'm assuming that looking at this, it would be the north. Yeah.
No, I don't have the overall. So just give us one moment. I'm sorry.
Aren't these parking spaces here?
Yeah,
But if this, where are they going to go?
I think it's on now.
There's an aisle.
No.
Good evening. For the record, Wayne Muller, Robinson and Muller Engineering, offices at 50 Elm Street, Huntington, New York. I'd just like to hand this one plan up to the board. This is it's actually an overall site plan of the existing conditions. And if I may just approach for 1 second.
Absolutely.
So, existing shopping center, Brentwood Road to Fairlane,
Mhm.
south. Second Avenue, here, Popeye. Really wouldn't impact the activities occurring here if there were to be.
You're coming in here?
Commissioner Speaker, you want-
Yeah, approved, Chase Bank. With the case of COVID and people with doctors, one hearing. One hearing, like, we back up. The one thing about this.
Right. Yeah,
Well, I think that the thing is that as part of the application, we had prepared a traffic analysis dated February 17, 2022, which is submitted to the town and reviewed by the various different departments, planning and the outside consultant. And as part of that, as part of our study, we observed the activity that at an existing Popeyes with a drive-through on Jericho Turnpike in Huntington. And what we found was that Popeyes is a little bit less active than, say, a McDonald's, Starbucks. It's on the lower end of the food chain, so to speak, as far as fast food restaurants go. No pun intended. And what we found was that the maximum number of vehicles in the queue during the peak time, I believe, was 7. So this is not one of those other type uses where you could have larger queues similar to a Chick-fil-A. I've also represented Chick-fil-A on various different applications. Yes, those facilities are radically different than Popeyes. So we believe that the 11 cars that are provided in the queuing lane will be more than sufficient to accommodate the anticipated demand. And again, Popeyes is already there and operating without the drive-through, so they pretty much have like an established clientele. There will be an increase in traffic, but we don't anticipate it to be that great.
This and, actually, the cars, rather than stacking behind which the drive lane is and the drive lane right adjacent to the cars, it could be stacked north of the entrance. However, there is an entrance that will be very active within the next couple of months to Ross Park, which is adjacent to this property. Right now, that's fenced off under construction, but that will be opened up. There's a parking lot on the property, on the park property, and there will be an active driveway there too. So it's conceivable that the cars could start stacking that way.
But again, based on the studies that we've performed at an existing Popeyes restaurant on Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, we don't believe that the queuing will be more than 7 or 8 at the maximum.
Mm.
So therefore, the 11 cars that we believe queued will be more than sufficient. Again, this is a different animal than, say, for McDonald's or
No, we
some of the more popular fast food restaurants.
Councilman O'Connor, I think, has a comment.
Comment for Attorney Butler, if I could. Your client has been advised of the covenants and restrictions that run with this application, specifically where I'm addressing operational restrictions number 4. That goes right to the point that the board has been addressing as it relates to drive-through queuing. And it says, if substantiated complaints are received regarding queuing failures such that the queue obstructs site circulation and/or if a stacking shortfall exists on or extends off the subject property, the Commissioner of the Town of Islip Planning Department shall notify the then current property owner and the branch manager of the restaurant by certified mail to correct the queuing failures. If evidence of queuing failures are still observed by the Commissioner of the Town of Islip Planning Department after 30 days from the date of such mailing, then the town board reserves the right to hold a public hearing to reconsider the use of the accessory drive-through and or impose reasonable conditions designed to improve the drive-through queuing conditions. Your client is aware of that covenant and restriction as it relates to tonight's application.
Yes, we actually reviewed the most recent draft that we exchanged with Sean earlier today, and they were reviewed by the client, and they are in agreement with them. They will be executed following approval.
And along the lines of drawing attention to these restrictions, I just want to be certain that the applicant is really committed to the problems of property maintenance, loitering, and litter. Again, it's adjacent to a town park that has a very not nice history, but we're dramatically making investments in changing that. And we want to make sure that this remains a positive community asset.
Understood,
That's our
Madam
goal.
Supervisor.
So we certainly don't want litter from the Popeyes all over the place and et cetera, or this becoming a place for people to hang out.
I will be sure that that conversation happens with the client.
All right, any other questions or comments for the applicant? All right, let's hear from the department then. Sean, if you would, please.
Thank you, Supervisor Carpenter, members of the board. In the past, the town has approved fast food restaurants on pad sites with that don't impact site circulation or off-site traffic. The comprehensive plan for this area of Brentwood envisioned additional stores and walkable destinations that were facing Ross Park. But this type of development isn't realistic because there's no sewers there. Because it is an adopted master plan and there might be a future plan that would request the same thing, the staff had asked that the applicant agree to either remove the drive-through or relocate the drive-through in the event that sewers do come and a walkable downtown pedestrian-oriented environment could be accommodated. And they've agreed to that. So we can say that this doesn't conflict with the comprehensive plan because the comprehensive plan can't be achieved without the sewers until such time. So, being that's consistent with our general policy for other shopping centers, we have no objection, provided that the drafted covenants are adopted.
All right, thank you, Sean. Are there any other questions or comments for the department? All right, thanks, Sean. No one has signed up to speak on this application, and unless there are further comments or questions for the applicant, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing, set the name of the deck, and approve the change.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Cochran, second from Councilman Guadron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Good luck. They're going to be really busy when Ross Park opens up. We will continue now with the first decision item on the agenda, which is BDG Sunvet LLC TC number 5417. I'd ask Sean if you would please come up and give us an overview of where we're at with this. I know we were waiting for something from the county.
Correct. So as the board recalls, this was reserved at the March 16th hearing as we're awaiting a determination from Suffolk County because we anticipated that the planning commission would take it up. They, however, issued a local determination, albeit with some comments and particularly recommending the use of renewable energy and providing for electric vehicle charging stations. The applicant will be providing the electric vehicle charging stations. I don't know if they have a commitment to solar or other renewable energy. But those were the comments from the County Planning Commission. Just as a matter of housekeeping, because we don't normally routinely do this, but this is a type 1 action under SECRA, so the town board will need to assume lead agency prior to adopting the negative declaration prepared by the department.
Sean, go back to what you said about they've agreed to the electrical vehicle charging stations.
Mhm.
Was that a suggestion
As
a
a suggestion from the
strong
county,
recommendation from the county as far as the other?
correct. As a matter of relatively new policy from the town for these larger sites where we anticipate long-term parking, we have required, I believe, 2% of overall parking stock to be set aside for electric vehicle charging stations. The applicant would like to just set aside 16 for now. Again, the market might bear out whether or not there'll be a greater need for electric vehicle charging stations in the future. But in speaking with the applicant's engineer, he believes that could be easily accommodated by just providing the infrastructure at the ends of the site where, the electricity is available. And they could accommodate that if and when, there's a
Okay,
enormous rush for electric vehicle charging.
thank you, Sean. Any questions?
Yes, the second recommendation from the County Planning Commission involves solar.
It's usually what we see when, in terms of renewable. Again, the only code requirement we have for solar is when we have large mini self-storage warehouses. That's not being provided on the site, so again, it's a suggestion. It could be that the applicant will want to do it just based on market conditions alone, but there's been no representation either way as to whether or not they'd be providing solar.
Is the applicant here?
Hello again, Philip Butler, Farrell Fritz. I don't actually have a presentation for this evening. I thought we were just going to be on for a vote, but that being said, there are representatives for the applicants here. If I could just have a moment to discuss with them, I'm happy to provide whatever.
All right, so
information I can.
the question is about the suggestion
Right, I
from
know,
the county for the solar.
right, so I can verify what Sean said about
Go ahead.
the electric vehicles. They're part of the covenants. We are agreeing to that.
Mhm.
There was no prior discussion about the solar, but are we? Introduce yourself.
John Cohen, Blumenfeld Development Group, the applicant PDG Sunbed LLC. Address 300 Robbins Lane, Syosset, New York, 11791.
Do you have any comments to make about the suggestion of solar? How do you feel about it? Is something you might think
It is
about?
something we certainly would consider. Just going back with regard to the electric vehicle locations, we did have on the plan originally 8 that have shown on the east side of the property, and we had originally put that on. We added, or in the process of adding, 8 more in the front field. As far as, other solar type uses, that will be considered. Absolutely.
Okay,
Something that, is it Mr. Cohen, did you say?
Yes.
Something that I was encouraged by in terms of the application is the reputation and the other developments that the Blumenfeld Development Group has done in our Long Island community, specifically referencing the Deer Park Tanger Outlet Mall. I know that's fit in very well with the community, and the community's accepted it. There's no solar there, though, is there?
I don't believe there is. It was done several years ago. Yeah, I don't think we did at the
that's a long
time.
time
but,
ago.
A lot of communities are putting them in shopping centers with covered areas, which some towns object to it aesthetically. But there are other solar type applications, light poles today have solar and other forms of it.
Thanks.
So it will be considered.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? We have gotten so many inquiries about this parcel. It's really exciting to finally see something positive happening. I know the neighbors, the outreach you did was very, very positive. And just to remind everybody, the square footage, if I remember correctly, is actually going to be half of what is originally there, correct?
That's accurate, yes.
About?
About.
Okay, very good. All right, on this application, I'll make the motion that we will assume lead agency status, a negative declaration, and make motion to approve the application. Do I have a second? Motion by myself, second by Councilman O'Connor. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Counselor, going to put the pizzeria back in there?
I don't know.
We need agents back.
I don't know about the tenants. Is it
I'll give up on the solar panel, get the pizza back.
There you go.
Yeah, put solar on top of the pizzeria. There you go. A solar pizza oven. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen and madam.
You're very welcome. Have a good evening.
There was no solar. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Okay, the next decision item is TC 5416, New Homes Holding Corporation. Again, we were waiting for the county.
Mhm.
So Sean, where are we at?
So we finally received comments from the county today, just to summarize,
You're
because
so timely, that county.
again, it's only comments, they're not binding on the board, but because of its proximity to wetlands, they had suggested that permeable pavement be installed on the property as well as additional trees for the parking area. As a matter of policy, we require non-point source pollution to be addressed via the site plan, and permeable pavement is one of those options. The applicant had indicated he'd rather not do permeable pavement, but that doesn't obviate the need for him to either put in what we call stormwater inserts that directly address the pollution, or something like a recharge basin or a rain garden that would filter out stormwater pollutants so that it gets filtered or addressed prior to entering the wetlands. So I think the current covenants address that adequately. He's agreed to plant additional trees around the paved areas that will help shade the parking area and again provide benefits for the wetlands. They also suggested a shuttle service because this isn't near goods or services. It's not really realistic for a development this size. And while normally we would prefer a development like this to be near goods and services, we should keep in mind it's displacing industrial zoning near residential uses and is also next door to a townhouse development. So it's continuing that character. So we do think this recommendation is in keeping with typical town policy and good practices. So we're okay with a couple of their suggestions, but not all of them. And those have been glorified in the covenants and restrictions, and the applicant has agreed to them.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate your common sense approach to some of these suggestions. But I think, again, it's adjacent to another townhouse
Correct.
community there. We're talking about 18 units. How many units?
Not even, I think it's 16.
16 units. I'm just astounded that they would suggest
We've
shuttle
heard,
service. But in any event, townhouses generally have a garage
yes,
and a car. Yeah, okay.
they will have cars.
And as I recall from the presentation at the hearing, when we closed the public hearing, there was meant to be cross-access between the two townhouse communities, correct?
Right, if the eastern community will agree to it, that will be provided in the future.
And also, while there are county wetlands on the west side of the proposed site, west of that are apartments
Correct,
without shuttle service.
correct.
Maybe the county can adjust their bus route
Uh,
and no one would need a shuttle service. How do you like that?
Part of their recommendations that they're discontinuing that bus route.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe they'll change their
Talk about
minds.
an unfunded mandate. Close your bus route and ask the private sector to put in a shuttle. Okay. Are there any questions?
Yes. So, we all drive, cars contribute to pollution, garbage and other stuff gets thrown in asphalt parking lots where it remains on the surface. When it rains, that water picks up pollutants and it brings them either to an inlet where a lot of times it'll go into a freshwater body or a saltwater body like the Great South Bay, or into the wetlands nearby. So the permeable pavement idea is so that it doesn't carry those pollutants with them into the wetlands. The water will go down into the existing groundwater without carrying those pollutants into the sensitive water bodies. That's the idea behind that.
That's a little longer to get to the back.
Correct.
It's the slow boat to the bay. Yeah. So,
You guys.
you know, obviously the developer wants to do something that might be a little bit more cost effective, but is addressing their concerns with the landscaping, et cetera. And you'll be monitoring it to make sure that, in fact, it satisfies any of the environmental needs.
Yes.
And engineering will go through it on site plan to make sure that they can retain their own stormwater runoff with whatever they choose to do, whether it be
Correct.
catch basins or dry wells or whatever it is they decide to do. They're required under the code, and engineering will hold them to that at site plan, that they maintain their own stormwater runoff.
Yep, and there's also DC oversight on this, so they'll have their own conditions, correct?
Sean, it's gonna be a nice business for Grant Beverage Center across the street.
Yep.
Super well.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion. Okay,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Do we need a negative deck or anything on that? Yes? So we have a motion and a second to approve and a negative declaration. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion carries unanimously. And that is it for the agenda. Motion to adjourn? Motion and a second. We stand adjourned. Oh, they should all be like this. Oops.